Hey all, Ms. Z here, and today's lesson is going to be on using the Pythagorean Theorem to solve real-world word problems. So our essential statement is, I can use the Pythagorean Theorem to solve real-world problems. So what is this going to look like? You're going to have a word problem, or essentially a diagram that illustrates something that looks like a right triangle, and you will either have to draw it, you will have to interpret the word problem so that you can use a Pythagorean theorem to solve the unknown side. So I kind of made these problems up, which I would normally do in class, and so let's see if we can figure them out. So reviewing what the Pythagorean theorem is, algebraically, the formula is just a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So what does that mean? If you have a right triangle, remember you can only use this for right triangles. If you have a right triangle, then you take your two legs of the triangle, they're attached to the right angle, and you square them, add them, and that equals the hypotenuse squared. So again, the hypotenuse is the side that is opposite the right angle, and it's also actually the longest side of the triangle. So here we have our first example. It says, use the Pythagorean theorem to find the height of Rapunzel's tower. My daughter is super obsessed with Rapunzel right now, and she got one of those life-size Rapunzel dolls for her birthday, so I decided this was like the perfect problem to use. So here we have Rapunzel's tower. We don't know how high it is. That is our goal. So I'm just going to go ahead and label it X, just so we know that's what we need to find. The distance between the ladder, this is a ladder, by the way. I know you can totally tell by my awesome artistic abilities. This is a ladder. The ladder is 45 feet, and the distance between the tower and the ladder is 16 feet. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that this is a right angle. So how are we going to use the Pythagorean theorem to solve for the height of Rapunzel's tower? Well, what is our hypotenuse? Let me go ahead and actually write out our formula. A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So remember what I told you in the previous lesson is usually what you want to fill in is the hypotenuse first before you put in the legs. So the hypotenuse is the side that is opposite the right angle. So in this case, it is 45. So we have our sides labeled in feet, and I'm going to go ahead and just use the numbers, and then when we get our answer, I will put the measurement back on. So we know that the hypotenuse is 45 squared, and then that means the other two sides are our legs, so I'll put an X for A and then 16 for B, and then I'm going to go ahead and just solve this equation. I do have a calculator right next to me. You can use your own calculator. So 16 squared is 256, and then I still have X squared right here, and then 45 squared is 2025. And then this is a two-step equation. You find the side with the variable, find the number not attached to the variable, and perform the opposite operation. So go ahead and subtract. Okay, that becomes 0, so it goes away. And then 2025 minus 256 is equal to 1,769. And on this side, we still have X squared is equal to 1,769. Now, the last step to get the variable by itself is to obviously perform the opposite operation. And the opposite of squaring a number is taking the square root. So I'm going to go ahead and take the square root. So that would go away, but whatever I do to one side, I must do the same thing to the other. And then you would plug that in. The square root of 1,769 is actually equal to, so x is equal to 42.059. And I usually have you round to 2 decimal places, so the hundredths place. This 9 would make this 5 round up. So actually, x would be equal to 42.06 feet. So the height of Rapunzel's tower is approximately 42 feet tall. All right, so there we have it. Okay, so the height of Rapunzel's tower is approximately 42.06 feet tall. Now, the next one, we will go ahead and scroll. All right. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell what these images look like, but this is my house. It's not really my house, but what I imagine a picture of a house looks like. This was supposed to be a tree, and then I messed that up. So here we have flowers. So this represents a park and our favorite store, Target. Okay, so here we have, and here is our question. Find the distance between home and the park is 3 miles. So right here, this distance right here between home and the park is 3 miles. So I'm going to go ahead and label that. And then the distance between the park and Target, oops, found a typo, and Target is 9 miles. So the distance between that Target is 9 miles. Okay, what is the distance between home and Target? So we want to know what this distance right here is between home and Target. So I'm going to go ahead and label this X, and I'll tell you that this ends up being a right angle, 90 degrees. And so here, funny, right? We're doing a lesson on the Pythagorean Theorem, and you can use the Pythagorean Theorem to solve for the distance. We can find the distance between home and Target by using the Pythagorean Theorem. So I'm going to go ahead and write down our formula. So here we have a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. And I just use those variables, but remember what that essentially what this means is leg squared plus leg squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared. So that's what that is in words. And then first, let's go ahead and find our hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is the side opposite the right angle, which happens to be, we don't know what that is, so we're finding that out. So I'll put an x squared right there. And then the two sides attached to the right angle are our legs, so it doesn't matter which order you put them in. Okay, we have 3 squared here, and we have 9 squared right there. And then we go ahead and solve this equation. So 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. And then 8 squared, I mean, not 8 squared, what? 9 squared. So 9 times 9 is 81. Okay. And that is equal to x squared plus. Okay, so then keep going. So 9 plus 81 is 90 is equal to x squared. Okay, so now we have one last step here. So we need to do the opposite of squaring, which is taking the root. So I'm going to go ahead and take the root. That goes away. And then whatever I do to one side, I must do the same thing to the other. Now 90 is a low enough number where you can actually give me a specific answer, whereas up here in this example it was so large that I didn't want you to have to give me the simplified answer in root form. But this one, it's small enough. We can go ahead and simplify our answer and leave our answer in root form. So what do we have to do? Well, we need to find a factor in 90 that is a perfect square. So there is a factor in 90, 9, that's a perfect square. 9 times 10 is equal to 90. So that's how we would break it up, okay? And then I'm going to actually write right here, this is like the square root of 9 times the square root of 10 is equal to x, is equal to x. Now, we know that the square root of 9, what times what equals 9? That's the same number. The square root of 9 is 3. So we can simplify this. So x, I ran out of room, I apologize. The square root of 9 is 3, but we don't know what the square root of 10 is. That's the simplified form. So really, our answer in root form is 3 root 10. Now, if I asked you to leave your answer as specific as you can, you would leave it like this. But if I just asked you to give me your answer in a decimal is fine. The square root of 90 actually equals, okay, this is also approximately equal to 9.49 miles. Okay, and yes, you definitely have to label, okay, label, label, label. And the reason I tell you to label is, first of all, we just found that the distance between my house and Target is 9.49 miles. It's probably a little bit less than that if we were being realistic, but in this problem, it's 9.49. And you see that because it's 9.49, it is the longest side. That is the longest side in our example. So if you have any questions about how to interpret word problems when you're using the Pythagorean theorem, please let me know, and I'll answer your questions as best as I can.